My grandmother lived with me in an old house that had been converted to several apartments. One was my grandmother's apartment, the second was always empty, and in the third lived a neighbor, about whom my grandmother always told me scary stories. I didn't understand why she thought her roommate was a witch. She didn't come out of the apartment very often, and I only saw her a few times. But I got a good impression of her. An old woman, neat, intelligent. And why did my grandmother dislike her so much? In general, they were not friends. And then one incident happened. Our neighbor was in the hospital and for a long time. I went to my grandmother one day and she gave me the key and said, "This is from a neighbor's apartment. Stop by, grandson, please respect the old lady. Check her out. I want to make sure she doesn't keep any witch secrets." I was reluctant at first. It's a crime to break into someone else's apartment. But after much persuasion, grandmother agreed. I was not going to take anything there. I decided that I would look into the apartment so that my grandmother would make sure that everything was in order and that I would leave right away. I unlocked the lock with the key, opened the door, and went in. My grandmother waited in the corridor. The apartment was ordinary, only it was a little dark. The curtains were drawn. The furniture was ordinary. A lot of books, and most in foreign languages. I walked a little ahead. Suddenly, I see a broom made of thick rods leaned against the wall. Well, I think, I will not tell about it, or grandmother really believes in the witch. How is it? Grandma shouted to me from the corridor. It's alright. I'm coming out now. I had just taken a step towards the door when it suddenly slammed shut with a bang. I hear a sound behind me and I turn my head, and in the middle of the room a broom is hanging in the air. Then the broom flies up to me and it smacks me in the scruff of the neck. I howled in fright. I pushed on the door but it would not open. I kicked at it and at the same time the broom was kicking me. I pushed on the door again and it almost opened. I understand that someone on the other side is holding it, but obviously not my grandmother. I looked behind the door, but there was no corridor behind it, only blackness and a hot wind blowing in my face. I felt that someone on the other side had pulled the door open and slammed it shut with force. Suddenly everything went quiet. I looked around and saw that I was alone in the room again. A broom stood by the wall and still is. I yanked the door. It opened this time without any problems. I jumped out into the hallway to a surprised grandmother. She did not hear anything at all. She said it was quiet in the apartment while I was there. And no one had opened the door. She thought it was a draft that shut the door. The only thing that confused my grandmother was when she called my name, someone answered from the room. My grandmother said it wasn't my voice. More hoarse and creepy. That's how we went to the neighbor's apartment. We never went to her again. And she didn't ask us any questions when she got out of the hospital. Only sometimes she smiled slyly when she saw me. Thank you for watching my videos. Subscribe to the channel, give me likes if you liked it. This is very important to me.